I prayed for peace, then found my ex-friend crying over a breakup. Her ex refused to leave, and I fear she's back in an abusive cycle. This may turn out to be a lengthy account, but I am seeking advice from those who are not involved and can provide unbiased opinions. Most of this post will likely serve as background information, which I think is necessary. I, female, 24, have an ex-friend, MK, female, 23, with whom I currently reside and plan to remain with until our lease ends in August. We were friends for just over a year before our friendship ended. To provide some context, we were friends from September 2023 to October-November 2024, after I moved into university housing and one of my roommates, M, already had a friendship with MK. In brief, and to quote MK, she was eager to establish our friendship, as I tend to be more social within my own circle and rarely reach out to others, due to my often serious expression. She mentioned she thought I seemed fun and like a vibe. Fast forward, we became close rather quickly, and about 5 to 7 of us living in the house formed a group, but MK and I connected the most, with other friends even noting this bond. Neither of us saw any issue with our connection, as we would always try to include everyone, and often it ended up being the two of us along with another friend, A. This was because the others were either busy or declined to join us, which we did not mind. MK is one of the few who does not stay in our accommodation, but is frequently present, practically spending almost every day with me or another friend. At some point, she began to spend nights in my room and rarely left. This wasn't a problem. We had grown close and I enjoyed having her around. Plus, more often than not, we would hang out with others in our friendship circle. MK and I spoke and eventually decided to live together for the following academic year, as most of the others were leaving the city or finishing their studies. During this time, I cannot recall specific dates, MK and I began to develop a connection that felt deeper than mere friendship. Our bond strengthened. Keep in mind that we are both straight. This evolved without either of us explicitly discussing or acknowledging it. As we grew closer, through small gestures of affection and cuddling, the boundaries became blurred. The interactions remained subtle touches that could be overlooked, but we began to notice lingering moments of intimacy, which made us both realize that something more was developing. Around June, I noticed that she seemed stressed after a bit of probing. She kissed me. I identify as straight and had never kissed or been kissed by a girl before that moment. She had some experience and was exploring her potential bisexuality. I did not exactly stop it. We talked about it. She believed that it might lead to the end of our friendship. We continued being friends, which eventually led to more touching and kissing, accompanied by developing feelings. However, we continued to deny it and acted like it was just a regular friendship, largely due to religious beliefs and other factors. Anyway, by August, we were on the verge of moving in together. Over the summer, I had to return home and was dealing with my own personal challenges. During this time, she had a friend of a friend come to stay with us, whom we will refer to as L. He needed a temporary place to stay. MK and L spent several weeks together at her empty accommodation and began to fool around. At the same time, she and I were somewhat arguing about our situation and our feelings. In short, after some back and forth, we agreed to return to being just friends. We both remained confused, but I was aware of her and L growing closer while also fooling around. Despite our decision to stay friends, I was troubled especially after she kissed me. A few of us girls decided to go out for one final night. During this outing, she unexpectedly kissed me in the middle of the club. After some deliberation, I figured, why not, and kissed her back. We shared a few more secret kisses before all returning to our accommodation. We were moving out that week. Friends went to bed, but she and I talked and made out some more. We spent several days together, despite Eltik's objections. At that point, she was single, and the weekend concluded with many unanswered questions and what-ifs. I mentioned that I didn't believe it would work from her perspective, largely due to my views, my family's expectations, etc. However, she too had her religious background and family obligations, as well as the responsibility of taking care of her family and helping to manage a business. A few days later, she entered into a relationship with L. I could anticipate this development, as it had been discussed over the weekend. I had asked her not to pursue it, and she claimed she wasn't ready for that. It is what it is. I did not entirely blame her, but I felt somewhat used since she had initiated our intimate moments just days before. Once the weekend concluded, I moved in, only to discover their relationship after settling in. L was seeking alternative housing, however, he has not left since August. They have spent every day together since, even when he had his place, they would stay at mine and MK's. MK and I have somewhat reconciled, but unresolved feelings led to arguments and disagreements. Our friendship has turned rocky, yet we have shared many heart-to-heart discussions and agreed to remain friends. L later became aware of my history with MK a week into their relationship, which created tension between him and her, as he began to have issues regarding my friendship with her. Nevertheless, we all tried to make peace. During this time, I was dealing with my own problems and went on a prolonged bender, lasting slightly over a month. During that time, we had discussions about our feelings, but we tried to ignore them. One night, after drinking, I left the house. Others thought I had gone missing for a brief period and forgot my phone at home. When I returned hours later with MK, everyone else was in a state of panic. I recognized how inappropriate my actions were, we talked, and I allowed her to express her frustration. It was evident how anxious and panicked she was. Unfortunately, our past came up, and after some regrettable words, shouting, and actions on both our parts, she made the choice to end our friendship around November or December. She made that decision and communicated it to me via text. That is the context. We still live together and have reached a form of peace, though it can be awkward, but we do not communicate much unless necessary, treating each other more like strangers than friends. Recently, I pondered about reconciling with her, as I was unhappy with how our relationship ended. I contemplated speaking with her and even prayed for guidance to help us reconnect in a more positive light, not necessarily to rekindle our previous friendship. On Wednesday, I went to bed with that thought in mind. On Thursday, I woke up, and after some time, I noticed MK and L arguing downstairs. From what I gathered, I couldn't help but feel concerned for her. I approached her in the kitchen and asked if she was all right. The girl appeared visibly distressed, looking shattered, miserable, and unlike her usual self. I learned that he had broken up with her the day before, but he had nowhere else to go. While she was on the phone with a friend I also knew, Elle remained in her room, refusing to leave. The three of us decided it would be best if our mutual friend Jay, who was in my room upstairs, intervened instead of me after she tried talking to him again. Moments later, the shouting resumed, and I felt compelled to go downstairs. She sounded frightened. He was unwilling to leave and was using profanity and becoming angry, according to MK. I knocked on the door but received no answer, so I entered her room. She was sitting there in silence, head down and mouth closed. Thankfully, her friend on the phone could relay to me that Elle was still refusing to leave, though I didn't want Elle to know she had informed me. Together with Jay, we managed to get him to leave and move to the kitchen. I sat with him for an hour, allowing him to ramble on about various topics, while also mentioning that it sounded like there was emotional abuse involved. He feigned innocence, so I called him out on his nonsense, which led him to start apologizing and shifting blame to MK. After listening to his excuses, I ultimately arranged an Uber to a hotel where he could spend the night. I tried to reach out to MK afterward, but she was not interested in talking and I didn't want to push her. I left her alone, though I could hear her sobbing throughout the night until the following morning. I woke up and checked on her. In a brief chat, she assured me she was okay. They were both considering working things out and thanked me again. I expressed my concerns, telling her it seemed to be an unhealthy situation and advised her to think it over. However, she remained adamant about wanting to reconcile, and I suspected Elle was already in the room, as later I caught him heading to the bathroom. What should I do now? MK and I are not exactly friends, but I still care enough to ensure she doesn't find herself in an abusive situation or relationship. She had previously been in one, which was hard for her to escape from. Our shared history makes me question whether I have the right to intervene or doubt whether she would listen to me given our circumstances. Overall, I am anxious about the well-being of someone who once played a significant role in my life and supported me through my difficulties. However, I recognize that I may not have the full picture. It could be nothing or something concerning. I do not want to use this situation to attempt to resolve our past, but I also cannot simply disregard it. What should I do? Should I approach her? Should I continue to avoid speaking to her? Additional information: she previously experienced a worse abusive relationship before I met her, and based on what she shared, it was challenging for her to leave that situation. Therefore, I am concerned she might find herself in a similar mindset again.